And until we can really sit down and do some serious research on what our diets is doing. And finally, on that illegal drug thing, there was one person in this country that brought us the problem and solved it without switching you from one drug to methadone, another one, without a federal grant. And if that man would have been a white man, we would all know we have the solution. His name was Elijah Muhammad. And now you black folks know, because he took our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, nieces and nephews, aunts and uncles and cousins, took them out the gutter, hooked to all kinds of drugs, all kinds of whiskey, all kinds of everything with pockmarked faces and bloodshot eyes. And when he gave them back to us, their faces was as smooth as velvet and their eyes was as white as snow. And they walked with a dignity like the sun would touch their head. How did he do it? Rearrange their diet. He took a Malcolm X who was a thug, a pimp, a dope addict, and a dope pusher. And when Malcolm left us, he was one of the most honest, ethical human beings that ever lived in the history of this planet. How did the old man do that? Did he send him to Harvard or Yale or MIT or Harvard University? He rearranged his diet, and he didn't do no more. And right today, we can walk across this country in the black community, and we can recognize black Muslims, not because of them bow ties and funny little haircuts, because of the texture of their skin and the quality of their walk and the whiteness of their eyes. And there's no trick. There was no magic. You didn't have to read nothing. You didn't have to go to school and learn it. Rearrange the diet, and all you
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. I hope you are having a great day. I have started out in the best of intentions. I put one of my master teachers on to open up the show, the Honorable Master Teacher, Master Comedian, the Honorable Dick Gregory, who I owe a lot to. I wanted to show that particular clip because of my time that I spent with Mr. Gregory. He told me about his relationship with the Nation of Islam. He told me about his relationship with Malcolm X. And he encouraged me. Before 9/11 that the Muslim community was a space that had to be occupied. Now, I will openly say that 9/11 thrust me into that position, but I was prepared to take on the mission because Mr. Dick Gregory, he prepared me. He let me know about humor within the Nation of Islam, humor with Imam Muhammad, and he built me up in a certain way. And that leads us to our topic today, which is whatever happened to Muslim comedians? With all these things going on in the world, you know what? I think maybe there's some other comics doing podcasts. I'm doing my podcast. I try and do my part. My part is that we've been on consecutively. We haven't missed a show since April 24th, 2020. So I'm on my job, brothers and sisters. But, I can't do it alone. Now, before we get deep into it, and I'm going to wrap this up. If anybody's coming on the show for the first time, and I see saying Sister Janice, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. Sister Janice is from Seattle, Washington. Wonderful sister doing great things. If you're on the show for the first time, I want you to understand that we have a dialogue here. We have a particular diet, as Mr. Dick Gregory referenced. And that diet is we're not afraid to talk about things. And for one of the first times, I'm actually working on my thesis. Before one of the first times, I'm working on a thesis about what comedy meant, what it really meant to the Muslim community. And because of that, I came to this space that I really, really need to talk to people about really what Muslim comedy was. Not what you see in Hollywood, not the shows that they're putting on, the Rami shows, the Mohammed show, and even Patriot Act. Because they're devoid of a very, very rich and robust conversation that happened before I ever told a joke. The Allah Made Me Funny tour, brothers and sisters, was a manifestation of African American struggle and the African American struggle to come to grips and build upon Islamic identity. They have been doing it for years. It had been laid out for me for years. And when the time came to step up, I'm happy to say that my elders trusted me with this project. And even more so, I was able to trust you, the audience, my brothers and sisters that came out and saw the shows, that supported us, that came to the tours. But I want to go deeper today because I'm disturbed. We had a lot of things happen in the last several years, and Muslim comedians have been silent. Some have been silent, some have been silenced. I'm very aware that a lot of people don't like to hear when I open my mouth. And the reason they don't like to hear when I open my mouth is because I'm going to tell you the truth. Not the constructed truth, but the truth. And sometimes that truth hurts because it doesn't necessarily reflect what you've been telling people. It doesn't necessarily reflect in your behavior. This is not only for the performers, but for the people that come to see them, the people that prop us up. So let me get going. If you come on the show for the first time, the rules are the same. They're basic. You can even check the old shows. Welcome to the show, number one. We appreciate you. Number two, if you have something to say, don't be shy. Put it in the comments section. I say put it in the comment section. Even if you don't have anything to say something positive. Say hello. Tell everybody you're making dua for them. Something positive. Put it in because it's important. Because I put it in what we call the shout out section. And I shout you out. And I put you on the screen because I want people to know that this is a platform. This is not Preacher Monster's show. This is a platform I'm providing for everybody. Much the same in the vein of, guess what? Allah Made Me Funny. As well, if you don't mind, please check the box for subscribe to the channel. As well, notification button. If you like the show, click the like button. If you don't like the show, click the like button. You know why? Because they don't have an unlike button. And then furthermore, make dua for us. That's the new one. Make dua for us because we're trying to do something exceptional. And the last one, we appreciate you coming on the platform. So you are officially part of, wait for it, the ShOUTout Show family, the ShOUTout Show soldiers. And you are part of an eclectic group of people. I say that every show because I mean it. And I don't say it because it's an easy thing to say. I say it because I understand personalities. As part of being a comedian, even when people come on a live stream joint, a virtual joint, you can tell people's character in some regards. I'm not saying you're 100%, I'm 100% correct, but the nature of folks, the way they question, the way they say salams, I mean, that is meaningful to me. So let me get going. One of our regulars is probably not going to make it. That would be Sister Reed. Sister Reed is dealing with Auntie, and Auntie has some health issues. In that case, we want to wish Auntie, we want you to get well, get better. Special shout out also for my aunt, Miss Aunt Maxine, who sponsors the show. Maxine Cage, she sponsors the show. She's not feeling well, and I want to make sure, I talked to her earlier today. I'm going to give a follow-up call, inshallah. Auntie, I hope you're feeling well. Don't worry about the show. Sit down, relax. You do a lot of good for yourself and your family. So please, 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 please listen to your body and take a break. Another person I want to take opportunity to thank. This is our consultant producer, Sister Satana Whitfield, who has been with me before April 24th, building and building and building. And I keep telling people, you know, part of this thing is that you want to train people. You want to see people who, you want to identify talent, and you want to do everything you can to make that talent shine. That was what Allah Made Me Funny was. But it was a different type of talent, a different type of shine, and I'm going to get to that. Let me get, I will send you the link. Sister Sultana, I will send you a link. And this is Throwback Thursday. And then some of y'all you're gonna flip out on this, and I'm gonna ask everybody just hold it down to the end. Because I'm actually gonna show you a little bit of where Muslim entertainment came from in the United States. Some of you think you're gonna click and you see me telling jokes. No, nope, nope. I have somebody who, I'll talk about it later. I get too excited. I lose my train of thought. And I want to welcome Sister Janice Tuff to the show. Sister Janice, like I said, is doing tremendous things out in Seattle. She's one of our beloved sisters in the community, throughout the world, throughout the United States. We thank you for coming on the show, just like I thank everybody else, but we appreciate you. Sister Sultana Ali out of New Jersey, we appreciate you coming on the show as well. I know you're going to add some comments in. This is actually going to be one of those shows. All right, this is going to be one of those shows. So I'm going to invite everybody, if you mind, to just go ahead and jump in. Feel free to jump in. Because this is, we go to masjids, we go to venture, and we sit there and we listen to the khutbah. Well, this ain't no khutbah. You can jump in. You can get your shout out. So, Sister Altaf, Brother Altaf Rashid, coming all the way from Toronto. Toronto is an important foundational block of Allah Made Me Funny. This is where we had the first show. But I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about realistically what you should be expecting from your Muslim comedian. I'm going to give you a backdrop. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the aspect of African American Islam, Black Islam here in the United States. That's number one. And number two, I'm going to talk about the effort of Allah Made Me Funny to bring together the communities. That's number two. And number three, I'm going to talk about what this whole thing means. At some point in time, brothers and sisters, I'm going to say I was disheartened with being a Muslim comedian. It felt like the more I worked, the more it was harder and it went away. That people weren't listening. And then I had something happen to me. I had a young child walk up to me in the airport who saw me in a video for something called Adam's World. And the child began singing to me. And I said, that is what Imam Wafdi Muhammad was talking about when he told me to do this tour. And when I got the blessing from the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, that's what they were talking about. And sometimes you have to have that aha moment to keep you going. So, Sister Tough, I'm glad you enjoyed Mr. Gregory. At one point in time, people say they were trying to say I was the next Dick Gregory. I said, please don't do that. Please do not do that. And I told him, I said, if you ever see something like that, understand I did not write it. You're my hero. You're my mentor. You're my teacher. There's no way we can ever be on that paradise, that parallel, if you will. I said, you've done too many things. Sister Wahida, what's going on? Thank you so much. Appreciate. Thank you to the audience. Positive duas, much appreciation. Thank you so much, sister. I appreciate you. But this show, brothers and sisters, is a show about appreciating you. This is a show about a Muslim comedian telling why we appreciate you. Because most of the time, you come to a show, you clap for the Muslim comedian, hey! But it's much deeper than that. There is a relationship that's much deeper than that. And I'm going to get this, Sister Janice. Appreciate you. We have some people I'm missing. Let's see. We got Sister Ree missing. I talked to her. Sister Aika from Indonesia. Come on out. Sister Rabina from the UK. She's not here. Want to give her a shout out. She sent me some stuff that was hilarious. She sent me a lot of pictures of Proud Boys with tattoos that were married and had children with Black women. I thought it was hilarious. Okay, let me get my focus. I have a little bit of time and I might run over a normal half hour. But the idea of being a Muslim comedian does not come from me. It didn't come from me. It came from the Africans who came here as a part of the slave trade. And what they did was they held on to their Islam as long as they could. And at some point in time, they died out and they carried that Islam into Christianity by necessity. By necessity. But the things they carried into the Islam were, in fact, very Islamic and very, I want to say, if you want to look at religion, made sense even in Christianity. And I'm talking about Sharia. One of the things about Sharia, brothers and sisters, is that it really makes sense. And the sad part is the people that demonize Sharia are the ones that try to deny it to folks. So let me add this in right here, in case you want to know what I'm going. My reference is from Maqasid al-Sharia, which talk about the methodology of Sharia, which is about protection. And Sharia is meant to protect 5 things: life, wealth, children, faith, and intellect. life, wealth, children, faith, and intellect. So we already know that if you were a slave, all those things were taken away from you. And as it would be through slavery, Islam died out. We think it died out. But as the 1900s came along, and you had transatlantic travel, and you also had the idea of Black Power movements like Marcus Garvey, who was one of the people who mentioned the Mohammedans, the people who follow Muhammad. And he talked about that. And in the 1900s, these freedom movements were inclusive and began to talk about Black Islam. Now, brothers and sisters, we can get in an argument about Aqidah, but you can knock all those arguments down. The miracle of Islam in America for the African American is, despite the fact you didn't have access to Qur'ans in many regards, you didn't have access to the books of knowledge or fiqh or jurisprudence, or you couldn't go to Azhar University. That one thing, brothers and sisters, established a benchmark, established a benchmark, if you will, that these people, may Allah bless all of them all, using this scope of protecting life, children, intellect, wealth, and faith, were able to build civilization in a civilization that did not want them. And humor was a part of that. So let's fast forward, brothers and sisters. We're going to fast forward to the fact that in 2002, I had an idea after 9/11. And let's just be honest, real honest. The idea in 9/11 was that there was an attack here, but it was not an attack by African American Muslims. 9/11 was an immigrant issue, and negative serendipity affected everybody who was Muslim. Not the Arabs. They didn't bomb Saudi Arabia. They bombed Iraq, but it affected everybody. And I don't mean just Muslims. It affected people who were not Muslim. Let's be very, very clear about that. So the mandate, brothers and sisters, when I set out to do Allah Made Me Funny, was my teacher, Imam Warthi Muhammad, and the other teacher, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who I had studied in my youth, let's just be honest. These were two men who emphasized the importance of what I had to do. Because one of the things that we've lost, one of the things we don't pay attention to, is that the religion in this country, not the government, the religion of the people who practice it, believe it, they put their faith in it, they breathe it, they exercise it. For the African American, it was an anathema, because this was a religion, even if you didn't know it was Islam, even if you were a Christian, you didn't know it was Islam, it had something that America could not figure out about African Americans. And that was the ability through this religion to correct ourselves. To correct ourselves. The powers that be don't like to be corrected. They like to give you wrong information, but they don't like to correct their information. The whole thing that you've seen with Trump and the protesters, these are mobs of people that have gotten information that's wrong, but they're afraid of correction. In this United States of America, the black man cannot evolve without engaging correction. Islam itself is a religion of correction. The model of the Rasulullah is not that he forced people into Islam. He showed them correction, and they made conscious decisions. That's why I say religion can't be compulsive. That's deep. So when it came time to do Allah Made Me Funny, the Imam said in Philadelphia at a Manor event, inaugural Manor event, he said, your job as a comedian is much the same as being a teacher. He said, it's not to go out here and holler about Islamophobia. He said, you can't change people's minds. He said, but you can always give them correction, and they will change their minds. So if you begin to think about it, the mission, brothers and sisters, was a mission of correction. And the call to action was again from the Quran. The Quran. Maqasid al-Sharia, the Quran. It had every element I've mentioned in 2001, 2002, 2003. We were out to save lives. Not just that, the protection of life, children, wealth, faith, and intellect. And we waded into this space, brothers and sisters. And I'm going to shout my brother out here, Johnny L. Thomas. I love my brother. You know, that's my little brother. But I'm going to say something. All It Made Me Funny does not happen without him believing in the project early on and seeing me put something together and encouraging me and sharing his house and sharing his family and allowing me mentally to get in a space where I'd be able to do this. It's the same thing with my mother. She did the same thing. The same thing with my aunt, who I wish good health and get better. All these people saw that. And you say, well, they're not Muslim. They don't have to be Muslim to see the truth. The truth is, Sharia or not, it has the same, it has the same impetus in Black religion. Black religion speaks to preservation of life, preservation of children, preservation of faith, preservation of intellect, preservation of wealth. Think of the scope of African American religion that has raised wealth, brothers and sisters. It's not until they get in that space where they could be going or doing this thing. Just that idea, just those principles led to things like a Black Wall Street, led to the proliferation of Black colleges. You went from not being able to read to establishing Black colleges, institutions of higher learning, science, technology, service. I mean, this is a very deep thing. And entertainment was a part of it. Let me see what Sister Tough is asking. Erasure Society. I'm not sure about 420. That's when we started All It Made Me Funny. I mean, not All It Made Me Funny. We started 424 for the show. I'm going to check with you about that. Give me a text. But I'm bringing this to you because I started doing research for my thesis, and all the research picks up what I did, Muslim comedians, based upon, you guessed it, Islamophobia, 9/11. And I find it that it's disingenuous and it's disrespectful that you line it up that way. Because it says you haven't done your homework. It says that you don't want to look deep inside the truth of how beautiful this religion is. How beautiful this religion is as a Muslim, the importance of Christian involvement in this religion, and how it survived beyond that. In fact, it's clear to say, you could say it's ironic, but the people who are afraid of Sharia the most are the ones who work to make sure you don't have it. You know, the day you say the word Sharia in the masjid, 75% of people are going to run out of here. They're worried about losing their jobs because they're worried about perception. They're not worried about correction. And so when I started All It Made Me Funny, brothers and sisters, I had an opportunity to do something that was rare, which was being visible as a comedian, which was to be a social scientist, but based on the research and data of some of the ultimate social scientists, Imam Wafdi Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Louis Minister Farrakhan, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, W.B. Du Bois. In a tradition of scientistry world, I was able to put this tour together and define what it was to be a Muslim comedian. And for the first year, 2 years, I would say, it was amazing. It was amazing. The reason it was amazing because it was a people's tour. And the folks that came originally to the tour to support it understood what we were doing. One of the problems of Muslim communities today is they want adoration. They want adoration. They want you to love them because they do stand up. I don't want you to love me because I do stand up. I don't want you to love me unless you really know me and that's something you want to do. I want you to respect me and support me because I love Allah, because I love God. And I'm working in that space. You see, mark this down. I am the first and foremost Muslim comedy scholar. Let me say it again. Muslim comedy scholar. Because I can look at the thing across the expanse before 9/11. Let me show you guys a picture. I've ever shown you this picture before? This is me in the Milwaukee Journal. 1993, brothers and sisters. Do you see what I have on my head? Can you see that? That's a kufi in the middle of a nightclub 8 years before 9/11. I'm doing jokes, but I'm giving them that deen flavor. I'm giving them that dawah. No profanity, no alcohol, none of that. I'm giving them the facts. And more importantly, I'm funny. Ooh, I'm funny. And what becomes important, brothers and sisters, and I didn't realize this until much later, and Imam Wafdi Muhammad told me to take it to my immigrant brothers and sisters. But he just said immigrant brothers and sisters because it's easy to think that you divide between indigenous and immigrant brothers and sisters in the United States. But he said, no, it wound up that you took it to the world. Because this history that I just introduced you to before we even got to the idea of Muslim comedy, talking about the availability and the genius and the miracle of African Americans to discover and evolve Islam in this country, that's the story. That's the formula of how you win. That's why America doesn't come knocking down or trying to set fires to African American masjids, because history would blow the flames out. Because history would throw water on that foolishness. The community will hurt you before a Muslim hurts you if you try to disface a masjid. Do you hear what I'm saying? And there's power in that. You see, the difference between real Muslim comedians and what you see on TV, and I'm going to say it, and this is good, this is real. You see, I come out of a tradition where I don't ask you to accept me. I remind you that I exist. Despite everything that happened to myself, to my people, the folks around me, I exist. And I exist because I followed a blueprint of those who were before me. You think King didn't follow the same thing I just talked about? Do you think there's a civil rights movement? And I'm talking about not even being Muslim. A general idea about these principles. They built family, brothers and sisters. They built societies built on these principles. You can't have a society that talks about nonviolence without these principles. And let me expand even further. Thank you, Sister Tough. I appreciate you. And my brother came down. There it was. Great show. No alcohol and no smoking. He was at that show. But the difference between Muslim comedians like your brother, OG Preacher Moss, is simply this. I'm not showing up to change you. I'm showing up as a part of correction. A correction for what I see, and indeed a correction for who I am. Because only through the work can you correct yourself. Thus, don't love me for trying to be funny per se. Love me because I'm trying to correct myself. And I'm going to love you for the same reason. You see, we have a term now when, I see it on t-shirts. I saw a comedian go, Muslim comedian say, I'm unapologetically Muslim. Well, you are unapologetically unfunny. And the reason you were unfunny, brothers, is because it was about you. You know who I'm talking about. It was about you. And you got upset. And I cautioned you and I counseled you. And I said, put Allah first. And after that, in the show, put Allah first. And after then, put your audience second, then put yourself. You went out of order. And the funny part is, I had my chance at one point in time to go out and be that Muslim comedian. But when they started talking to me, a regurgitation started happening. And I started thinking about all the people who came before me. And it wasn't an issue about me selling out. See, you sell out when you know it's wrong. It was the fact that to be involved in this situation involved me not correcting myself and not correcting the people I was working with. It's not to say I'm an authority figure over anything other than myself, but you recognize some things. And the beautiful part, and I'm going to add this because this is really, really important for anybody that's out here that's seen Muslim comedians or Muslim comedians that will get this telecast later. Stop going out here telling people that they're wrong. Your stand-up does not make you right. I've learned, even with this project of the ShOUTout show, you know what I learned? That I don't look for people to be right or wrong. I look for them to be present. And I may guess a certain way, and it may not work that way. It doesn't necessarily make me wrong. It just means that the results were merely unexpected. And I've learned through a lot of help, friends and family and scholars, to master understanding the unexpected. So the true Muslim comedian, the real Muslim comedian, is not even a comedian. It's an artist that understands God's work. Number one, God's work. Number two, God's work through them. And someone said one time, can you be a comedian and a Muslim at the same time? And before I opened my mouth, I said, now what is the question here? Are we doing surgery to separate the two? And I said, no, they're not. I said, it's a fair question. But the goal of the Muslim comedian, as I say in my stand-up act, Muslim, the goal of the Muslim comedian is not, brothers and sisters, that you're doing God's work. The true Muslim comedian recognizes the need to do God's work. And so does the audience. And that's what makes the audience so pure and special and elite. I said elite. I do mean elite and intimate. Because those people who come to the show, they come to laugh. But they come looking for a certain modality of correction, connection, fellowship, community. So I wanted to give you guys a treat, and I'm over. Let me give a shout out to Adam. Yes, Adam, Toronto was the first show we did. And it's funny, brothers and sisters. The first 3 shows we did, hear me out. The first 3 shows we did were not with Muslim, they were not with Muslim sponsored groups. We did Yuck Yucks in Toronto with Mark Breslin, a Jewish club owner. We did the Improv in Washington, D.C. with John Excellence, he's a Greek. And the 2 shows we did after that, beautiful shows, were with the Raleigh community, the WD community in Raleigh, North Carolina, headed by Imam Oliver Muhammad, who took a runner on us, who said, this thing is important. He said, I'm bringing you here because I realize this thing is important. And he gave us a platform. He gave us a platform. And I never forget this dinner we had in between shows. It was before we had a show. It's myself, Azhar Isman, and Azim Muhammad. And now peep how deep this is. We're having a great dinner. We're all eating. And the man starts to talk about our mission. And he starts talking about when he was in the Nation of Islam. And he starts talking about Imam Walter Muhammad, things he said. And he said, you guys are on an important mission. He said, the test is you recognize the mission and you stay on the mission, that you not be distracted. Sadly, we've been distracted. Sadly, we've been divided. But those are the truth. Shaitan is everywhere. The devil is real. But I'll never forget how important this was. As we were eating and the man was talking, I looked over my brother Azhar Isman, who was listening to the man, and he was visibly holding back tears. He was welling up. I mean, welling up, like ready to bust like a cloudburst, welling up. And it became so obvious that we were looking around and we had to say, brother, what's wrong? We had to say, what's wrong? And he said, I'm ashamed. He said, I'm ashamed because he heard this history from Imam Oliver Muhammad. He saw it in myself and Azim. He said, I'm ashamed. And we said, what are you ashamed of? He said, I'm nearly 30. I'm nearly 30. And I've not bothered to sit down and have a meal in the house of an African-American Muslim. He said, I haven't had an African-American Muslim. He said, all this talk about unity and Islam. He says, I'm realizing I haven't sat down with my brother. And it took a tour to do that. Lord's God, keep it simple. So I'm going to close on a little different Throwback Thursday, brothers and sisters. And for all my Muslim comedians who are out there, the point of this, I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm trying to remind you of the greatness of this community and the need to serve it. And in serving this community, so many other things will fall into place. My mother came on here. So you were able to establish a reason and a pathway because you inform, educate, then laugh, which is sorely missed these days. Right, my son, right on. See, Mama was at the table when I came over. Allah Made Me Funny. All y'all want to know who the mother of Allah Made Me Funny is? It's Mary Moss. She loaned me $700 of her tax return. $700 that I didn't have. And that's what Allah Made Me Funny was. It was built on $700 and a logo. You know, I hope I paid that $700 back to you, Mom, with interest. But I'm going to really, really give you a treat now. You heard me talk about it. What's going on, Salim? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing, beloved? But I'm going to really show y'all a treat about how beautiful my community is, but also your community. Because this thing I'm about to show you, I had to find it. I love it. I've watched it and listened to it several. There's a man in the WD community, WD Muhammad community. His name, brothers and sisters, is Wilmore Siddiqui. They don't talk enough about Wilmore Siddiqui and what he's meant to the community and the songs that he was doing way back when. So I'm going to cue this up. What's going on, brother? Enrique, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. He was there because I couldn't get there. I was stuck in Nebraska and couldn't make it. So he went as a representative of Allah Made Me Funny. He wrote something, too, called The Apology, if anybody wants to look it up. Pretty deep. And it would tie into what I said about the meeting we had with Imam Oliver Muhammad and his shame about how African Americans, or in his words, how immigrant Muslims treated African American Muslims. I might have him on the show one day. We'll talk about it. So I'm going to talk about one of our heroes, who is Wilmore Siddiqui, who, man, he's been around for a long time, but I need everybody to just listen to this song he wrote called Leaders. Okay? That's how I'm gonna close the show. I'm gonna put Leaders on and I'm gonna run the outro. But I want you to just listen to this, because I said Throwback Thursday, doggone, I went, you ain't know where I was going to throw back from. I'm throwing back from here. And it's people like this, brothers and sisters, who inspired me. See, you don't know what it is. Sometimes you're watching people, you don't know how to inspire you, and people are watching you, you don't know how you inspire them. So this is a guy I saw around the time I took my shot. And I said, in the midst of people clapping for him, I said, he got it. And when it came time to do all, it made me funny. I wasn't alone. Everybody's got a blueprint. So imagine I had Wilmore Siddiqui, remember Wilmore Siddiqui, and I had the incomparable Dick Gregory. That's here to say, brothers and sisters, as much as I railed about Muslim comedians and how bad we've been silent with all this stuff going on, I'm still on the job, and I want you to know that you're in good hands. Okay, brothers and sisters, enjoy.
Name the student Leaders. What you should do if you really want to. Do your leader be true? Do what he asks of you. Now Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. Prophet Moses' staff turned into a serpent and swallowed all those falsehoods down. Prophet Jesus healed the sick and made the blind man to see. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all, fought for justice, so that all mankind could be free. He did it for you and me. But look, leader, leader, just like me and you. Leaders are like the wind. Oh Lord, they're just passing through. Leader, come and go. History bear witness, 'cause it's all been told before. So I'll tell you what you should do if you really want to. Do your leader be true? Do what he asks of you. If you got a heart, if you really, really believe in God, then God is on your side. Just as long as you keep your heart open wide and wide. Justice is heavy on your leader's mind.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your ShOUTout show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next ShOUTout show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from ShOUTout. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out ShOUTout.com for some of the best oils and scents in town. Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your ShOUTout show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next ShOUTout show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from ShOUTout. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out ShOUTout.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.